Hey guys, it's Mike coming back with another video. This is an SGC reveal video. It might be the last one. As some of you may have known that do SGC or follow SGC, they have decided to do away with their autograph authentication division, which to me is a really bad. Of course, here comes Henry to make his cameo. You're a little bit early today, Henry. But I collect, me and Brian both collect Hank Greenberg, and I collect Johnny Bench. I don't get as much cut autograph stuff for Bench just because he's got so many on-card autos and stuff like that. For Hank, everything is cut auto, and there's also a lot of photos and pictures I like to get um, to buy raw autographs or PSA DNA autographs and get sent over to SGC for crossover because then they can go into the registry set. SGC hyped their new image big time at the National last year, and they have not really done a whole lot with it since. I've been waiting for updates to their registry set and their population reports. Population reports are sketchy at best regardless. I don't know if a lot of you all know or not. If I get a PSA DNA card and I cross it over, or if I get a regular card, it doesn't have to be the autograph. If I get a PSA card, cross it over to SGC, that card still is listed at PSA or PSA DNA is existing, but now it also exists at SGC and vice versa. I know Joey was talking about a lot of his, he gets a lot of SGC authenticated stuff, sends it to PSA DNA to get crossed over. So, because he says it's worth more money. Um, so, population reports are you got to take with a grain of salt for sure. But the registry sets are important, and the problem with SGC right now is that since they started their new grading system, where they went to numbers such as PSA and Beckett uses instead of their old 100-point system, they use a 10-point system. But the new cards have different serial numbering on it, and you can't add them to your existing registry sets. So I've got this stack of cards over here I've had a few times graded by SGC that I can't add to my registry set until they get it updated. And it's been, what, 8 months since the National, and they haven't done so yet. And then comes this out of the blue, like a week or two ago, that SGC is doing away with their autograph authentication division. I called and talked to SGC. There's a guy named Tyler he's a really good guy, and you can talk to him, and you can get a hold of him relatively quickly. And usually I have no problem getting him on the phone, and he'll talk about things. They said that he told me. Now I know they had a problem with T206 fake autographs a few months ago. PSA had some, SGC had more. And I think they were sold at a major auction. Brian, if you're watching, you can make a comment because I might not have the details as much as as well as you do. But essentially, the autographs were proven to be not authentic, and I think SGC had to make reparations and they had to pay back the people that lost money by buying these cards that were slabbed by SGC as authentic. So what Tyler inferred to me, without saying it directly, was that there's so many fakes in the business now, it's hard to catch, and they're getting better and better all the time at faking these autographs, and they thought it'd be better for them to move on and not do autograph authentication anymore and just focus on cards themselves, which is fine, but they want to compete with PSA, and PSA DNA is a huge part of that. So if I see a nice Hank auto that is raw or PSA DNA or even Beckett or JSA or whatever, I can no longer have that slabbed by SGC, which means I can no longer put it in my registry set, which is half the fun of getting these cards and these items slabbed, is so that you can put them on your registry and let other people see them. So for a while, short while, years ago, they had an agreement with Spence where Spence would do the authentication and SGC would slab the cards. I don't think it lasted a whole long time until SGC decided to do the authentication themselves. But since they stopped doing that, I'm thinking maybe they'll go back and do something like that again. So people like me can still use their registry sets and get their things authenticated through, say, Spence or whoever they have an agreement with, and then slab the cards so that they can still be used. But if they're going to compete with PSA, they have to be able to compete on all levels, I think. If you all have different comments on that, I'd love to see them. Please, leave a message down below. It's very interesting to me. I love SGC, and I was really hoping they'd make a push at doing things better than PSA. And so far, I haven't seen a whole lot of progress since last year's Nationals. Now, Tyler also told me that by this National coming up, there should be a lot of improvements on the web page. He wouldn't say specifically that the registry sets are going to be updated and such like that yet, but I got to assume it's something like that because I don't know what else they would be referring to. But anyway, enough of my soapbox. Like I said, though, there's a lot of things I'd like to buy, I'm sure, coming up that I might not now because I can't get them authenticated through SGC. And I might have to go to PSA DNA to do that. And I can understand if you're competing against PSA, but you send some of your business over to PSA DNA because they can still do autograph authentication. If I was a guy collecting and said, well, I'm getting all my autographs authenticated through PSA DNA because SGC doesn't do it anymore, I might as well get my cards run through PSA also, because this for the uniformity of your collection, just have everything under one brand, which makes sense to me. Now, I'm all the way in pretty deep for SGC, so it would be pretty cost prohibitive for me to try to get everything crossed over to PSA. And I'm not a big fan of PSA or Beckett or anything like that, so we'll just have to see how things shake out. Sorry to be rambling on so much, but it is a big deal for us SGC people. But they announced that April 1st was going to be the end of their authentication for autographs. So they announced that like a few days, like at the end of March. So everybody had to rush their orders in, and I'll give them credit. They got them back to us within about a week or two. And I think they just wanted to wrap things up because their head authenticator is going over to Beckett. And I'm sure all their other authenticators are probably looking for jobs too, or found them and getting ready to move. So anyway, I got this only 5 pieces. And nothing too big in here, but I did have these things sitting off to the side. I was going to be in no hurry getting them done, but when they announced that, if I wanted to get it done, I had to get it in right away. Brian, my buddy who also collects Hank Greenberg, did send in one item to get graded and slabbed by SGC, and it's a beautiful card. So I'll be looking for that video to be posted here shortly. I'm sure he'll be getting that done sometime tonight. So let's see what we got here. It's kind of funny. It took them forever to get my last batch back, but once they're closing up shop, they got these back in a hurry. So sometimes it makes me wonder how why they couldn't have done that before. Of course, I know the PSA guys are going crazy too, so PSA's taking forever to get things back. So I don't see a good solution. I don't like Beckett, so, or what's the other one, GAI or something like that nobody uses that I know of. Spence, I guess, is still good. At least they used to be pretty good. So I guess that's an option down the road. Anyway, let's take a look at everything. He sent back all the PSA DNA holders here, the little tabs that were in them. I wish they would notify, I wish PSA and SGC would notify each other, because all they'd have to do is take the number off the ticket, and every week or month send a list over to PSA DNA saying all these numbers we have crossed over to SGC, you can take them out of your database. And PSA DNA could do the same. They could take all the SGC cards that Joey sends them. Just joking with you, Joey. But you can take all the SGC graded cards or authenticated cards and go to PSA DNA, and they could take a list of the SGC numbers, and they could take them out of their database. And that way, you have at least a fairly updated database, but it's so far gone now, I don't think it really matters. These come out beautiful. I don't care what anybody says. The SGC holders are just fantastic. This is a 1975 sports hobbyist. One of those kind of oddball things from the mid-70s, 75, SH106. It was on eBay, and I got it for like $35, which for a Hank autograph is crazy. It is a nice looking old card. But this is see that, I hope. Yeah. And it's got a nice old picture. That's of his rookie year, probably 1930, based on the way the D is on the hat. It's got a nice autograph on it. Black ink. And for $35, I couldn't pass that up. But now, if I see something like this on eBay, I gotta think, well, I can buy it and put it in my collection, but I can't get it slabbed. So, do I really want to buy it or not? So I will say no on some of those. This one is a 1960 new card baseball highlights. And this is really cool. Just a couple video or two back, I did one on a program I got. When Hank got back from World War II, he came back on July 1st, 1945, and he helped the Tigers get to clinch the pennant in the end of the year by beating the Browns, and with a grand slam home run in the ninth inning, what every kid ever dreams about. And that eliminated the Senators from the chase. If they would have lost to the Browns that weekend, or that day, Sunday, they would have had to play the Senators in a one-game playoff to go to the World Series. And he hit the grand slam. And this is a card that they made for it. And the page, it's kind of like a newspaper thing. It says Tigers beat out Senators for pennant. The actual picture is of Newhouser, who was the winning pitcher in the game. It says Newhouser, Greenberg star in historic game. But Hank signed the card in a beautiful, beautiful red autograph, and it just looks fantastic. So that is gorgeous. And I got a couple photos, again, things that I may or may not buy in the future unless they fix things. This looks like to be like a 1947 Polaroid type picture. It's an authentic photograph showing Hank sitting on the bench. And it looks like he signed the card in blue ballpoint pen for whoever took the picture. And this is the picture. I've showed it, I think, already. It's Hank on the bench. Now, he played 1 year for the Pirates, so it's easy to date. And it's got the ballpoint ink pen signature on it. That's very cool. And the fourth one is another picture. This is a picture of Hank much later, probably signed. This is one of his last, what do you call it, old timers games, I would say. It looks like he was getting up there. He passed away in '86, I believe. So this was probably taken in the late '70s, maybe early '80s. I'm not for sure when he did his last game. But he's getting quite gray now. But it's kind of cool because he's wearing the Detroit uniform. And it's got a kind of unusual signature for him. It's a small signature, um, but very cool. Probably late '70s, early '80s, I would guess. It's got a nice little signature. It's one of the smallest signatures I've ever seen him put on a card. I love the portrait cards like this, even from the beginning of his career all the way to the end. Just when you put them all together, you see them like in a registry set. I'm sorry for the glare on these. It just tells a story, and it's about the man and his life. And the last one here is actually a pretty rare one. This is a 1934 Gaudy wide pen R314, a Type 1 that somebody trimmed the top and trimmed the bottom borders off. It's got a very, it's not, it's there. It's probably not going to show well on this camera with the glare and stuff, but it's got an actual vintage photograph. This was signed, and I can tell by the way he signed it. You can tell by the way he did his G's if they're like early 30s, later 30s, or late 30s and early 40s. This one dates probably from 1936 to 1938, and this is a 36 wide pen. So this was signed probably the year these were made or the year after, and it is just cool as can be. Wow, it looks fantastic. As you can tell, it's trimmed to the top. There's no white border on either side. But it's a Type 1. It's not that creamy colored of a Type 4, and it can't be a Type 2 or 3 based on the picture. Don't know if the autograph will show, but there it is. Very faint. Actually, it's stronger. It seems better out of this case than it did in the PSA. But the PSA DNA case it came in was scratched really bad. So this one actually looks better now. That's pretty cool. So 1936 wide pen. And you can see the autograph right above the name there. You can see the way the G kind of goes down and then comes back to the left real sharp. And that's autographed from, like I said, 36 to 38. And these came out in 36, so pretty early. I've got a lot of autograph stuff, but my favorite autograph stuff is anything, period. If it's signed in the 30s, I love it. And especially cards that were released, official cards that are signed by Hank in the 30s. Those are just cool. Well, that's it. If you all have comments about PSA, DNA, PSA, I'm going to look at some things. Hopefully SGC will work something out with Spence or somebody to get some autographs slabbed again. I hate to think that's the end of that. But if not, I'll probably use PSA DNA for some of my nicer items. They charge $30 for a basic Hank Auto. Like something like as nice as this is, it's only $10 with SGC. So they did it really at a very nice, affordable price. But, you know, what can you do? So if I'm going to spend $30 on PSA, excuse me, and if it's something like a 8x10, it's going to be PSA charges an additional $30. So it's $60 for an autograph slab card compared to I used to pay $10 at SGC. So you can see why the SGC people are very upset about this. So anyway, thanks for watching. Enjoy the game tonight. I don't really care who wins the NCAA tournament tonight since Kentucky got knocked out, but should be a great game. Hope you enjoyed the cards and the photos. Sad to think that might be the end of them, but be sure to watch Brian's video. That should be coming up tonight, I hope, because he got one really nice card in too. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon, Lord willing. Thank you. Bye-bye.